If you've ever been the user of a dedicated webcam, so not the integrated one in a laptop, but an actual one that you've put on top of a monitor on top of your laptop, you might agree that they haven't changed a huge amount in what feels like the past 15 or so years. There's definitely been a bit of stagnation. Now, there is the rise of this sort of creator category of webcam, and they are a little bit better, but they still haven't really blown anyone's minds, and they're not really suited to streaming live on the internet because they aren't flexible enough usually and don't have enough customizability. Now, NearStream have come up with what they're calling their live streaming camera, the VM20, and this is sort of a hybrid between like a full-on like conference room style camera, but still small enough that you can actually use it in pretty much any environment. But that doesn't mean that they have scrimped on any features, and that is why I think this is worth taking a look at today. This camera is 4K capable, which is excellent. It has 10 times optical zoom, which is incredibly important because it means it doesn't degrade the quality as you zoom in. It has an 8 microphone array, which means that the audio from it is actually pretty usable in my opinion. It has a plethora of connections and, more importantly, ways to connect. So you have your standard USB-C and USB-C power as well, which is nice. It has a HDMI output, and it also has your RJ45 output as well, output and input. So this can be actually powered over Ethernet if you want to, and used as a remote live stream camera without any other cables attached to it. Equally, it can run completely off a single USB-C cable as long as you have USB-C power delivery, or you can output via HDMI, though that is limited to 1080p. So it's a really versatile camera that is actually capable of doing lots and lots of things for lots of people. So what does that mean? What would you use this for? Well, first off, I've been using it as a webcam, literally a standard webcam in my day-to-day calls that I do as part of my day job. And the difference in image quality between my Dell XPS laptop and this NearStream VM20 is literally unbelievable, especially now as I record this as we head into the depths of winter. The days are shorter, and by the sort of towards the end of my workday it is pitch black outside. My Dell XPS webcam is literally terrible. It's full of noise, it just looks terrible. This still looks fantastic because it has a large enough sensor and better ISO performance, which means you actually get video that's usable in lower light, which is a massive boon. But this is more than just a webcam if you want it to be. You could use it as part of a home studio setup like I have here for recording your videos if you do any kind of content creation, if you do any kind of live streaming. Also an excellent camera for that. You can set this up on a tripod, lock it in place, use the remote it comes with to actually control the zooming, so you can change the framing as you want to. It also has AI framing, but we'll get into that a little bit later. And essentially have this instead of a full-on like mirrorless or hybrid camera setup. And it's certainly a lot more affordable. You're looking at about £269, I think it is what it's usually listed at, $260 in the US. It's a lot more affordable than something like a full-on hybrid or dedicated video camera setup, but is delivering quality which is pretty similar, to be honest. So this is the video quality of the NearStream VM20. Now, to me, I'm really impressed by this. It looks really crisp, really clear. The contrast is nice. I like the color balance. This is just its standard actual color profile. I think it looks really good. To me, yes, I can tell there's some differences to my Nikon Z8, but given the fact that we're talking like multiples of 10 in terms of the difference of this setup versus the setup I was using a few seconds earlier, and I think we have to say that the NearStream is doing pretty damn well. At this point, I can bring in the remote and the various settings that allows you to customize as well. First off, we have the zoom setting, so we can zoom in uncomfortably close. There's a slow zoom, and then there's a fast zoom for when you really want to zoom in. I think this is about as close as we want to get. I'm not going to go down any further than this, but it's nice and flexible. We can have a really, really wide range of zoom, which I'll show you in full a bit later. Now, I also mentioned it has an AI mode. Let's have a quick chat about that. I'll turn it on now. And it takes a few seconds, but then it'll decide how to frame, how far it wants to zoom in, does it really quickly, and then there we have it. So now this is what it thinks the framing should be, nice and centered. It's uncomfortably close, but it is close and it looks good. But that's the AI framing mode. Personally, I prefer to have control, but it's nice to know it's there and nice to have that flexibility if you want. Forgive my laptop sounding like it's trying to take off. There's a lot of things running in the background, and apparently adding OBS to that was a bit too much. Now, we also have a button for white balance on the remote, so we can change the white balance from auto through to the different settings that it has if we want by using that. It's nice, it's pretty flexible, allows you to do what you need to do. You have a snap focus button, which when pressed will click into focus on whatever's on screen. It will usually hone in on people if it can. You also have picture modes, which I'll take you through a little bit later as well. In addition, if we zoom in a little bit, you also have a bit of panning and tilting, well, that you can do essentially by using the aforementioned auto zoom in function. So I'm not a huge fan of this because it is digital zoom. It's not actual real zoom. But if you want to have a close-up frame and then manually decide what it's doing, I guess you have that option. For me personally, it's not necessarily the kind of setup I want to use. You also have up to 3 presets, so you can set various different zooms or different settings on those presets and save them, which is nice. And you can control up to 5 devices with this remote as well, in case you have a really big setup. Lastly, what's really cool is you have a mute button, and you also have a kill video button, which I'm going to briefly show you. And that's a really cool setup too. Being able to snap and just cut the video or cut the audio when you need to is a useful feature. You never know when you're going to need it, and it's nice that they've got that on the actual remote as well. And you also have a mirroring button, so I can mirror the screen if I want to. This is actually, I guess, more accurate to what it would usually be, even though it's now back to front. Or indeed, we can mirror it back, and you can also lock those settings in place too. The settings menu is a little bit sparse. You have an image setting, so you can change the various sort of brightness, contrast, saturation, etc. And then you have your networking settings, which I'm not going to show you because they have the specific ones for this camera on there. And have the actual settings for the camera. So, for instance, being able to disable the LED on the front of it, which is really important. So if you're in a situation where you don't want it to have the status LED, you can switch that off. And lastly, you have the device details, which gives you the information like the IP address and other things like that about the device. Overall, I think the image quality is really good. I like the wide zoom range. The autofocus is pretty good in this kind of environment. Outside, it was a bit slower. But by all means, I was giving it a pretty stressful situation, doing the full 10 times zoom plus adding the additional digital zoom. But overall, yeah, I really like the image quality. And as you can hear from the audio, I think the audio quality is pretty acceptable as well. Anyhow, let's get this back off the tripod and just have a chat about the build quality. And build quality is, in my mind, important. This is something that you're in theory going to have set up and not have to think about. So you want it to be built well, so you don't need to think about, you know, is it going to get damaged? Are there going to be any issues? It feels super solid. It has a nice plastic exterior, which is good. It has a really nice metal 1/4 inch mount on the bottom, so you can actually pop it onto your tripod of choice, which is excellent. The connections on the back, again, this is a metal plate, I think, on the very back of it, or if not, it's a really high quality plastic. It feels really good, and you're not going to have any issues breaking your cables when you're plugging them into the ports. And on the front of the camera, I'm fairly certain, having tapped this a few times, it is glass, so you're also not going to have to worry about scratching the front of it when you're cleaning it, which is good to know as well. And last but not least, you also have a status light on the front as it switches on that will show you that it is switched on, it's functioning. You go through the different colours, you know, red, white, blue, depending on what it's doing. Excellent, nice, simple, very good in terms of that too. It's very silent itself when you're zooming. You don't get much audio interference from the actual zooming function, which is something I found with other more pan-tilt zoom style cameras and live stream cameras. So that's nice that they've dealt with that well. And also you can switch this light off on the front. So if you find actually it's quite annoying and you don't want to have the status light, you just pop into the settings and you can switch off the light, so you don't need to worry about it at all. I think the thing where this wins out is the plug and playness of it. I've plugged it into a variety of computers via USB-C and it's just worked. I haven't needed additional power cables, nothing else. I've plugged it into HDMI and I've plugged in a USB-C power cable at the same time, just from a battery power bank. and it just worked. Now, you are limited, as I said in the intro, to 1080p on the HDMI, which is a bit of a shame. I would have loved for that to be 4K, but you can't have everything you want. It's not the end of the world. So that is one limitation, perhaps. Then I haven't done the RJ45 networking setup. You can do it. It is fairly easy. There's some tutorials online to do it. It's just not a use case I'm personally going to use, but knowing it's something that you have available to yourself is really useful, and so I wanted to make sure I did call it out. It's especially useful if you're using this as part of one of the use cases I know where these kind of cameras get used a lot is in churches to live stream services or live stream events in general. For that, that's perfect because you can have multiple cameras connected via power over Ethernet, controlled centrally without any hassle, not having to, run up to the cameras to switch them on or anything. Yeah, it's really good. I also like the fact that this has a microphone input. So not only does it have 8 built-in microphones, but if you want to use the microphone input, you can use that in order to, supplement the audio if you have a better audio input. Now, personally, I think you'd only do that if you have a single camera setup and sort of fixed audio solution, but it's handy that it's there, right? You don't have to mess about with software and different inputs if you don't want to. Now, I'm recording this through OBS, so in theory, changing the audio input would be super easy, but the fact is that NearStream decided to make it super easy as well. I'd also like to take a moment to have a chat about the remote, because I really like this. First off, it's not infrared, it's proper radio frequency, so it's going to work from longer distances and doesn't need to be pointed directly at the camera to work, which is nice. Secondly, it has 3 separate presets, so you can actually set this up to do different like focal lengths or different settings on the camera, which is really handy if you have like preset for day, preset for night, or like a close shot and a wider pan shot. Then you have up to 5 devices that you can have linked to this. Again, nice if you have multiple cameras and you can set them up on the same remote. If you're someone like me that shoots YouTube videos and you don't want a complicated camera setup, and I can't blame you, this is an excellent way of getting a really high quality video without a huge amount of effort, especially if you're just using something like OBS to record. If you are recording events regularly and you want like secondary or tertiary fixed cameras, this is amazing for that. The fact that you can be really flexible on which output or input you're using, the fact you can actually zoom in up to 10 times if you need to, which is a huge amount of zoom, right? Like you're really going from a very wide shot to a very, very focused shot. I have to say I'm really impressed. I think for the money, this is hard to beat. Like I certainly couldn't put together like a mirrorless camera setup that would come anywhere close to this for £270. Heck, even 10 times that you'd struggle if you're trying to get that focal length. So to me, I do think that the NearStream VM20 is an excellent little camera. I got sent it for review, and you know what? I was quite impressed by it, more so than I thought it would be. It's a lovely little camera, and it's definitely something I'm going to be using as a webcam, and maybe even to record some of my videos in the future. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this video useful. If you have any questions about the VM20, pop them in the comment section below. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, because it really helps me out. Thanks very much for watching. I hope I see you again next time. Goodbye.